Okay, so yeah, so this is just a quick review. Actually, not really a review. Yeah, I'm just gonna talk about the cards that I'm building or I'm working on here. So I have the individual character cards, and yeah, basically they are basically the same format along with the cognate cards. And yeah, let's just take a look here at what we've got. So for example, this is a custom reviewing, like kind of a portal or local page for me to review the cards, and most of them are ready. Actually, believe 90% of the character cards are ready. But some of them do need some reviews. But yeah, let's just take a look at how this works. So yeah, Korean, Japanese, the same word, uncover the secrets of the Pahaga method. So this is going to be an individual card. And first we have the card for big and great. So that's the kanji, the hanja, it's the same one. And those are the keywords or the glosses. And this Middle Chinese, this is actually something that I have created for myself. I did my own reconstruction of Middle Chinese, and it's very focused, it's very specific. It doesn't have any tones. So my reconstruction, we got rid of the tones because the focus for this reconstruction of how Middle Chinese sounds is only specifically for the context of what matters for Korean and Japanese. And Korean and Japanese don't use the tones, so we are not using it either. It allows us to simplify, and this is how the my kind of purpose, my idea with this Middle Chinese reconstruction is what did it sound like? My question was what did it sound like to Korean and Japanese people in their ears when they heard the Middle Chinese word? So it sounded something like "die," and so what's very interesting, and this is the terminology I'm using, the terminology that's used often in Middle Chinese linguistics. The onset, which is the first letter right here, the first the consonant, the vowel right there, and then this is actually something that I have created. This concept I have created myself. It's called the Japanese release. So I'll get to that later. But yeah, basically die, like die. And in Korean it's pronounced te. But interestingly, if you actually look up historical Korean linguistics, is that this was actually in the past pronounced die. This vowel right here was actually a diphthong, and just in modern Korean has been shortened to a monophthong or one singular vowel. So it originally was dai, and then became te, or tai, or originally dai, then te. Japanese preserves this. It is pronounced dai, like daigaku. If you can read that, that's the katakana, like dai, and hiragana dai. But my goal, so this is Pahaga, this is my spelling, my new spelling for the Japanese language. And so this is pronounced dai. But the goal is to preserve the structure, the original structure of the Middle Chinese, because these words are directly descended from Middle Chinese. So I thought, okay, how can I spell the Middle Chinese, how can I spell this Japanese word while remaining true both to its modern pronunciation and the original Middle Chinese spelling? So basically, this is pronounced dai, and if you notice, so first let's start with the Japanese. You see in Japanese there's actually two letters, da e, da e. So Japanese, so in Middle Chinese, this is one unit of sound, dai. So Korean actually preserves that one unitness. They compressed it to de. Japanese, on the other hand, expanded it. They preserved the diphthong of dai, and they stretched it from one unit of time dai to 2 units of time, dai. So basically, the way I preserve this with my alphabet is that this first part is showing the structure. It's dai. This is in itself is dai, but in order to match the length of time, in Japanese these are like the unit of time is a mora. This is 2 mora, 1 unit of time, 2 units of time. So dai. So the spelling it preserves both the original structure of dai and the modern Japanese pronunciation of having 2 units of time. So dai. And the way I romanize that is this is a reflection of this. So this is the D, this is the AE, and this is the I. And why is there, if you know Korean, why do I have the sound here? Basically, for my release sounds, this is just basically just to show that it's a release. Like, that's all it is. So I could have written this as like just the I by itself, this long by itself. But this is a creative decision that I took, is that it just didn't look good in my eyes. So I decided, okay, well, we can type this. So I'm just going to use this. And this is, that's another constraint that I put on myself. So for this alphabet, this Pahaga alphabet, I decided only to use letters that are available to be typed in the modern Korean alphabet. So like you can type this with a keyboard, with any keyboard, standard keyboard. It works like most of the time, 80-90% of the time, but then there were some creative decisions that I had to take in order to accommodate letters that are in Japanese, but they are not in Korean. So yeah, we'll get to those. Yeah, they're quite rare, but yeah. So anyway, that's the first one we have is big, great. Let's take a look at ones that have the coda or the final. So I think let's look at this one here, Day Japan Sun. So let's make this a little bigger. And oopsie. Oh, too big. All right, never mind. Whatever. Okay, so we have the initial, which is something like a ng, ng. So this is an interesting one because Korean drops it, that ng, and then Japanese preserved it as that n. And so this is for day, Japan sun. This is the character. And then we have the Middle Chinese. It's roughly, I'm going to just very roughly pronounce these. It was probably something like ngeet. 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 I don't know. I can't read the IPA that well, so it's something like ngeet, ngeet, ngeet. In modern Korean, that's il. And then in Japanese, it's nichi. Nichi. So Korean, like I've said before, Middle Chinese, the structure is the onset, like the first initial consonant. Then you have the vowel, like this. So we have here. Then we also have a glide, but I just simplified it. In our use case, we don't need to worry about glides, and it's just all a vowel. That's all we need to worry about. And I know if you're a Middle Chinese researcher, that's offensive to you, but whatever. In this context of analyzing Middle Chinese for Korean and Japanese linguistics, just calling this as vowel, good enough. Then we have the coda, which is the final consonant. And in Korean, they've taken the final T and they made it an L. So it's il. So ngit became il. Japanese preserves that T. But the thing with Japanese is that they cannot hold the final consonant except N. And that even then, they still have a release, but they can't. But Japanese, if there is a rule where if there's a final consonant, you have to release it. So this usually, so for the final T's, it can either be released as an I or an U. In this case, in this example, it's nichi, and you can see that here, nichi. So if there's the katakana, ni, chi, hiragana, ni, chi. And I preserve the structure. There's the N, the I, T, T. Nit. But then Japanese can't hold it, so they release it. That's why I call it the Japanese release. Nichi. Let's look at some other ones. Where's one that's okay? So here's a more interesting one. Actually, let's look at okay. Okay, I guess let's look at this. This is an interesting one, like kin, because in Japanese gold money is kin, but in Middle Chinese it's kum, or Korean gum, and then Middle Chinese is something like gim. I think gim. It's pronounced something like that. So we have the initial is a K. I believe this is velarized. I forget. Pharyngeal is something in the throat. Then we have an I. Then we have an M. So then we have a G, kum, and we have a K. Then we have... Oh, this is where I've taken creative liberty. So we have so this is kum. And in another thing that I wanted to do was also not only for the Japanese spellings to make it similar, or no, to first there's some non-negotiables. The Japanese spellings must adhere to the modern Japanese pronunciation. That's non-negotiable. It also needs to match the original Middle Chinese reconstruction as much as possible. And if we can do those, we should try to, and then for my stylistic purposes, I wanted to align it to the modern Korean as much as possible. So that's why we had this kim, this and so this is not strictly necessary. I could have just written this as k, like K-I-M, without the here. But since Korean has the horizontal line, I decided let's just throw it in there too. And it doesn't affect the pronunciation because modern Japanese doesn't have a kim. It just simplifies to kin. Oh, and this is another interesting thing. So even though the original Middle Chinese is an M, I preserved that here. Korean preserves it as the M, the square. But Japanese has to release it. How do they release the final? And it is an N. So it is not kim. It's actually just kin. So while it might look a little complicated, and in fact it is more complicated than the simple katakana hiragana, the purpose of this was to preserve structure as much as possible, to preserve the original Middle Chinese. And that's what, if you can read Hangul, this is a K, the red, and I've also color coded these. So if you can't read the Korean alphabet Hangul or my modified one, Pahaga, Pahangana, that's okay. All you need to do is just look at the color. And you can see, oh, look, this little angle here looks pretty similar to this. This horizontal line looks similar to this. We have the square, looks similar to that. And you're like, oh, wow, the Korean and Japanese look pretty darn similar. And that is because they are from the same root word. And it's very, very obvious, but in like examples such as this, mountain, where it's literally the same, san. And for like 3, the spelling's the same, but the Japanese release is an N, so this is san. Whereas it's all preserved. The SAM, SAMN. Yeah, so that was just a quick overview of the cards here, the individual characters. Here are some of the words, so putting them together. And these ones definitely need a bit more review. I need to spend more time to make sure that they are correct. There's a lot more information to review. But yeah, for example, like time, jigan, and shigan. So the Middle Chinese was something like zigen, something like that, zigen. And so Korean is 시간, and then we have the color coding, and then Japanese jikan. So yeah, basically this is just a really quick overview. I have all these cards. I also have, they're not perfect. Some of them, actually quite a number of them, do need edits. Because so for example here, possible, we have 가능 and kano, which is correct. Everything is correct except for my Middle Chinese. I have kanoi. I need to change this one. Yeah. So basically most of the cards are ready. There are some mistakes or some things I need to edit, but yeah, this is just a quick overview of these. I need to be publishing these. Actually, a lot of them have already been ready. I just haven't been posting them, so I will be getting to that. So yeah, if you're watching this, this has kind of just been a stream of consciousness, just talking about this stuff. This is like a lot of my research for over the years, and so yeah, thanks for watching, and there are more to come.